And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strode across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Please here on WoW Radio on the 13th of March, 2009. It's a Friday, the 13th. And so forth. I'm breaking mirrors. And black cats are here. That's not a cat. It works! What can I say? It's Friday night. Welcome to the show. And what a show we have for you today. Coming up in the show today, we'll be talking about a whole manner of wonderful things, as we usually do. And claiming that they're all terrible, as we also usually do. Questions, many questions today, such as, will hard modes and achievements save Ulduar if it turns out to be too easy? Are hard modes really enough? Or are we just looking for some really challenging, meaty content like the old days? We shall see as it comes up a little bit later in the show. Also, dead content, i.e. 95% of the game is officially dead content. It is not alive. It has ceased to be. It is an X content. And indeed an X continent. Should anything be done about it? Or are we simply moving from continent to continent like a hive fleet of evil tyranids, devouring all the quests, rewards, and epics there are to be had before moving on to the next world? Who knows? We shall see. Also, the Immortal and the Undying to be removed from the Ulduar meta achievement. Well, the question is, should they also be removed from the normal meta achievement as well? And why exactly is this achievement causing so much drama? And why indeed do people care so much about an achievement? It's a great question. We'll be answering it a little bit later on in the show. And of course, your chance to contribute to the show. You can email themurloc@gmail.com with the illusion of choice. At which point, you can choose the last topic for the show. If it's good, I shall do it. If it's not, I will not. Email themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. And if for some inexplicable reason you have issues spelling it, then I would suggest you go to the website, wcuradio.com. You see a little link under our show badge. It's wonderful. One of the new features we are bringing in to WoW Radio V4. Oh, yeah. Now, speaking of new features, before I go on to the mailbag, I've got a couple of things to announce. As I like to do this. It's cool. Like, one of my few pleasures as owner of WoW Radio is to get to announce cool new stuff. So I'm going to announce two things today. Oh yes, two things. The first thing is I've decided that perhaps it might be time to blog. Now, I've been thinking about blogging for a long time, and personally I think it's kind of a waste of time most of the time. But I've come up with a decent concept that I think works, and I'm calling it Blog Please. For when 15 minutes just doesn't satisfy you, and in my experience, that's never the case. But let's assume that it is the case for once, and the purpose of this particular blog is to supplement the content that goes on in this show. It's to provide further musings, discussions, and, generally speaking, more rational arguments to support what's been going on the show. So you can check it out if you go to our IRC channel, Our IRC rep Si will be providing you with a link to this blog. It's only just gone up. It's got a few postings on there already. I intend to update it on a semi-regular basis with musings and stuff, because I can't think of another good word. Musings is a good enough word to cover everything. Musings, yes. It should betray a musing. Amusant, as the French might say. Although probably not that badly. So head over to blueplease.blogspot.com. That is blueplease.blogspot.com. There's a lot of B's in there. Covered in them, in fact. And you can check out the blog, if you so wish. Now, speaking of blogs, we had a fellow in our IRC channel last week that many of you got to meet and be all inquisitive around, and that his name, I believe, was Fred Jones, and he is older than I, let me put it that way. And he's been hanging around to do reviews for the new blog, undergroundwow.blogspot.com, which is a blog dedicated to reviewing the world of WoW podcasting, and quite frankly, it couldn't have come at a better time. It's certainly about time that the world of WoW podcasting got a little bit of critique, a little bit of review, and a little bit of accountability, more than anything, instead of being some kind of happy, clappy group of podcasters who somehow think they're part of some crazy community where everyone's going to hold hands and dance around and say, hey, we all podcast, aren't we awesome? When in reality, the vast majority of them probably aren't. Let's face it. I like this blog because they are critical, they are fair, and they are very analytical. Critical and analytical. And I can pronounce those two together. I'm quite surprised after a week of mundane work, I must say. Now, naturally, after mentioning this blog on the last week's show, the amount of people viewing the blog did increase. However, I believe the blog requires more support. So, I'm going to throw something out there. They have been getting quite a number of views, but not an awful lot of comments. Now, I've noticed the Blogspot has a rather nifty feature in that you can leave a comment using, like, your Google account. Yeah? You can go to comment as, you can look at it, if you've got a live journal, if you've got a WordPress, a TypePad, AIM, OpenID, or a Google account, you can do that, so you don't have to register, which is really nice. So, I'm going to throw this one out there for you. I'm going to host a contest, and this contest will be to win an exclusive copy of the Art of World of Warcraft hardback Burning Crusade book. Yes, indeed. It is a very, very nice book indeed. Hardback, it's about 120... Actually, it could be more than that. Like, almost 200 pages, I think, of fantastic WoW artwork from the Burning Crusade. I have a copy of this in pristine condition, and if, for some inexplicable reason, you like that kind of thing, I will also sign it for you. And that is going out as a contest prize. Now, if you wish to enter this contest, all you have to do is go to undergroundwow.blogspot.com, have a look at their posts, and over the next week, I'll announce the winner on next week's Blue Please. Over the next week, leave a meaningful comment on one of their posts. I'd like to get some discussion going over here. I think it's a good blog. I think it deserves a bit of support, so I'm going to put my weight behind it. My considerable 10.5 stone of weight. It's not really considerable, is it? But whatever. I shall put my e-weight behind it. Electronic weight. Which could be over 9,000. Who knows? So yeah, check it out. undergroundwow.blogspot.com. It's very, very good. Hopefully very, very impartial. I expect some strong critique of our shows over the next few weeks, people. You better. You better live up to my expectations. You go soft on me now. There will be things that you have never imagined. Horrors. Now, quite enough of that. It's time for this.
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag
my tail.
When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's time for some mail. Now, cracking my fingers, just like I'm sitting in front of a grand piano in front of an audience of millions, to play my ultimate sonata. Unfortunately, this is not an ultimate sonata, this is just a wall of text email, so here we go. It's from Rankin at a website called wowstolemygf.net. I have no idea what that is at all, but it sounds relatively interesting. Now, He says this, just a brief note about your comment concerning WoW casual players and the possibility of clearing raid content. I'd like to say, first of all, that I am not inclined to whine and complain about not having time to raid, etc. However, I do find myself in the position of not having the time to raid, because of my work schedule, which is erratic and changes from week to week and day to day, and the living situation I have found myself in. I was never able to do many raids pre-Wrath. I can't commit to raiding with my guild since I can't plan in advance what times I have to be at work, and often when I sit down to play, I don't know if I will have 5 minutes or 5 hours of uninterrupted time. Depends on whether the kid is in bed and other personal issues. Invariably, the majority of my time is spent playing between 11 PM and 8 AM server time. I have not made my way to 80 yet since Wrath came out, so I don't know if that will change. But as I said before, I have a certain lifestyle and a certain job because that is what I've chosen to do. And with all the other problems in life, I have more important things to complain about than how convenient the game is for me to play. I enjoy the game, I enjoy listening to podcasts about the game world and writing blog posts about the things I find fun about the game. One day I may be able to raid, especially if Nax is reasonably puggable as I hear. I level slowly, partly because of my hectic schedule, partly because I enjoy the questing content and refuse to race to max level. But I have to say this to a lot of whiners. If you find yourself unable to raid because of a real-life scheduling problem, then change your real-life schedule. Or enjoy the other aspects of the game, PvP, questing, achievements, etc. Don't ruin raiding for the rest of the people. My wife is a dedicated raider and she has to work at rearranging her schedule in order to make that work. I know that if I were ever to find a different line of work or start a character on an Oceanic or EU server, so that the time difference would give me playtime during prime hours, I could raid as well. But since I'm not at this point willing to do that, I will not ruin the game for everyone by demanding the same rewards for a lesser output of time. I want WoW to be like it used to be, where it was mystified and enchanted by the endgame content that I might have had a chance to glimpse, instead of having people in 10-man Nax, as I hear told, who don't even understand the gameplay. Keep the game fun and challenging, that's from Rankin. Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from there. I've had a couple of emails actually on this subject after I discussed last week the idea that perhaps casual players don't really exist. And I would say that I was reasonably wrong on that. Indeed, there are casual players around. But I will say that it is a lot easier to raid, the fact that basically everything is puggable. Now, what I did discover over the week when I was discussing it, and particularly when I posted the Is Casual and Hardcore Debate Obsolete post on the EU forums, which is going quite nicely at the moment, and you can find that on the EU forums or look on the new blog that I posted where that's also, that, yes, while a lot of content is puggable, that doesn't mean that it's desirable. In that, yes, you can pug it. Absolutely. 110%. Go pug it. However, the last thing you want to do as a casual player who has limited amounts of time is to go into a pug that's going to wipe on the first boss of Spiderwing. And yes, I would actually see the point of that. Indeed, pugs are horrific. I've seen pugs wipe on VOA for no apparent reason other than the fact that you've got like 5 DKs there that are all doing 1000 DPS or below. I raided with a mage, yeah? A mage. Arcane mage, no less. That did 800 DPS. It's like, you realise I could probably do about half that with my wand, right? I mean, I would have to try, seriously try to fail that hard. I mean, that is really difficult. I mean, my gear's not bad, but then again, neither was his. You've got to bear this in mind, that I only have a couple of best-in-slot items. The rest of it's like tier 7.5-ish level. You're looking at like 213 item levels, some 200 item level, not all that much 226. I've got maybe 2 pieces of 226 item level gear. So, I'm about average level for anyone that actually raids. Yeah, I'm pretty well enchanted. I mean, I've got like best-in-slot enchants, and I've also now trained up my jewel crafting, which I must add was horrible. Oh, whoever said leveling jewel crafting was fun was lying through their back teeth. Good lord. What a horrible profession to level up. Oh well, never mind. I sunk about like 4,000 gold on it and got myself leveled up to the level where I could use those special gems, because I wanted to increase the amount of damage I could do. So I'm currently sitting on about 2,150 spell damage or so. So you can see me as kind of an average, slightly above average player. Certainly not best in slot by any stretch, but pretty good. Now, if I'm doing like 4 to 5 times the DPS of some other mage who is similarly geared and similarly spec'd, then I must wonder what he is doing. Or if indeed he's doing anything. Whether he was AFK for the entire thing. It's like, I'd like to argue that that was the reason. It's like, oh, he was AFK, had to get called away. But actually, I know that he wasn't. He was just using a terrible rotation. I mean, seriously. I've never seen anyone use the rotation Arcane Blast, Arcane Barrage. What? What are you doing? What on earth is that? Seriously, you don't seem to understand. I mean, this guy was like sitting on full mana at the end of fight. It's like, you wonder why you're on full mana. You've got all this mana to burn. You've got like 21 to 25k mana you could burn in a fight which should last about 5 minutes. You've got your mana gems and you've got your 2-minute evocation, and you're doing that? Really? I mean, that's like an emergency rotation. That's my absolute last resort rotation. That's beyond my second last resort rotation, which is blast, 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 missiles, barrage. Whereas it should be like blast, 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 barrage, or blast, 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 barrage, or blast, 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 missile barrage if you've got it. I don't know what he's playing at. But anyway, there's just seemed to be this massive divide between actual casual players and just plain bad players. I mean, this guy had Ray gear, this guy had tier 7.5, don't know where he got it, probably the same place I got mine, which was off of VOA. But good lord, he was absolutely terrible. Now, I would have to agree with the email there. It's like, you can raid, it's been made available to you. But please, 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 for the love of God, just sit down and think for 1 second before you post your latest whine on the forums saying, oh, raiding's too hard, or all the no-lifers are getting it. Just how much of a benefit it's really going to be if Blizzard nerfs raid content down to the level where you can basically face roll everything without even trying. Because right now it's almost there, really. Unless you're doing stuff like an achievement or whatever, one of the special raid achievements has a special spelled with an S-P-E-S-H-U-L, because some of them are absolutely ridiculous. We'll be coming on to that later. Unless you're trying one of them, seriously, raiding is getting way too easy right now, and the last thing you want to do is nerf it more, because when you actually get there, it's like, you'll use this as an excuse. When you get there, in the pugs that everyone can face roll, you're not going to have any fun. Seriously, you're not. Games that are too easy are not enjoyable. Unless you have a challenge, there's no point in doing it. It's just a waste of your time. And as a casual player, your time is limited. So it better be quality time. And it's not gonna be if you keep pushing it this way. My name's Total Biscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. When we come back after the break, we'll be talking about hard modes in Ulduar and the idea of world firsts with hard modes and achievements. Where on earth is that going? Who knows? You'll find out after this. Enjoy.